Amina Osei was crouched behind a bar counter, restocking bottles that didn't need restocking, when she heard two people enter the private lounge. She should have stood up and announced herself, but something in their voices made her freeze. The woman said. "He actually believed the diagnosis," the man replied. "Good. A man who thinks he's dying stops fighting for anything." That's when Amina realized the powerful Korean Mafia boss she cleaned for every night. The man who looked worse every single week wasn't sick at all. Someone was making him sick. Someone was waiting for him to sign everything away before he died. And Amina, an invisible cleaning woman with everything to lose, had just become the only person who could save him. Amina Osei was wiping down the marble counter in the executive kitchen when she heard him cough again. It was the third time in 20 minutes, each one sounding worse than the last. She paused, her cloth hovering over the spotless surface, and listened. Through the partially open door to the private office, she could hear Kang Ji-ho trying to catch his breath. She had been cleaning this building for 8 months now. In that time, she had learned to move like air, present but unnoticed. The night shift suited her fine. Less people, less questions, less chances for someone to ask about her visa situation or why a woman with a university scholarship was scrubbing floors at 2 in the morning. The coughing stopped. She heard the sound of pills rattling in a bottle. Then silence. Amina went back to wiping the counter that was already clean. Her supervisor had made it very clear on her first day that the executive floor had rules. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't make eye contact. Don't acknowledge anything you see or hear. Especially, don't acknowledge anything you see or hear. She had nodded and kept her job for 8 months by following those rules exactly. But lately, something had shifted in the building. She felt it the way you feel a storm coming before the sky changes. People whispered more. Meetings ran later. And Kang Ji-ho, the man who owned all of this, the man whose name made grown men nervous, was getting sicker. She had seen him up close only a handful of times. He was younger than she expected, maybe early 30s, with the kind of face that looked tired even when he smiled, which was almost never. He moved through his own building like he was carrying something heavy that no one else could see. The office door opened. Amina kept her eyes down, focused on the counter. "You can go home early tonight," Ji-ho said. His voice was quiet, rough from the coughing. "I won't need anything else." "Yes, sir," Amina said, still not looking up. She heard him walk toward the elevator, heard the doors open and close. Only then did she allow herself to glance at the kitchen. He had left his water glass on the small table by the window. Next to it sat 3 different pill bottles. She wasn't trying to be nosy, but the labels faced her direction. One was a prescription she didn't recognize. Another was vitamin supplements. The third had text too small to read from where she stood. She collected the glass, washed it, dried it, put it away. The bottles stayed where they were, not her business. Amina gathered her cleaning supplies and took the service elevator down to the supply room. The building was quieter than usual for a Tuesday night. Most of the offices were dark. She clocked out, changed out of her work uniform, and caught the last bus toward her apartment in Itaewon. Seoul still surprised her sometimes. The lights, the speed, the way the city never quite stopped moving. She had come here 3 years ago on a scholarship to study international development. The program collapsed 6 months in, funding dried up, promises evaporated. She could have gone home to Tanzania. Should have, probably. But going home meant admitting failure, meant facing her mother's disappointment, meant answering questions about what happened to all that potential everyone said she had. So she stayed, picked up work where she could find it, learned Korean faster than anyone expected because she had to, built a small life that wasn't the one she planned, but was hers anyway. The apartment was dark when she got in. Her roommate Yoonji worked the early shift at a convenience store and was already asleep. Amina made herself tea, sat by the window, watched the street below. Tried not to think about the sound of Ji-ho's cough or the way he had looked when he told her to go home early, like he didn't want anyone to see him struggle. She understood that feeling more than she wanted to. The next morning, Amina woke to her phone buzzing, a text from her supervisor. They needed her to come in for a day shift, cover for someone who called in sick. She texted back yes before she was fully awake. You didn't say no to extra hours, not when your visa situation was complicated and your bank account was thin. The building looked different in daylight. More people, more noise, more chances to mess up. Amina kept her head down and her cart moving. She was assigned to the 20th floor today, executive meeting rooms and private lounges. That's where she saw him again. Kang Ji-ho sat in one of the meeting rooms with two other men. Through the glass wall, she could see them talking, papers spread across the table. One of the men was older, gray hair, expensive watch. The other was younger, closer to Ji-ho's age, with the kind of smile that looked practiced. The younger man noticed her passing with her cleaning cart. He got up, came to the door. "We'll need this room for another hour," he said. Pleasant voice, polite. "Can you come back later?" "Of course," Amina said, already turning her cart around. "Wait," he said. "You're new to day shift, aren't you?" She nodded. "I'm Park Sung-jun," he said, like the name should mean something. "I work closely with Director Kang. You do good work? The executive floor always looks perfect." "Thank you, sir." He smiled again. Something about it made her want to take a step back, though she couldn't say why. "What's your name?" "Amina." "Amina," he repeated, like he was filing it away. "Good to meet you. We'll call when the room is ready." She bowed slightly and pushed her cart toward the next hallway. Behind her, she heard the meeting room door close. Through the glass, she saw Sung-jun return to the table, saw him say something that made the older man laugh. Ji-ho didn't laugh. He was looking down at the papers, his hand pressed against his temple like his head hurt. Amina turned the corner and tried to forget the interaction. Park Sung-jun was being polite, that's all. Rich people were sometimes polite when they wanted to feel good about themselves. It meant nothing. But something in her stomach disagreed. "Hey, I know you're probably listening to this while doing something else, maybe cooking or traveling or just trying to get through your day, but do me a favor real quick. Hit that like button if you're already hooked, because trust me, this story is about to get wild. And stick around, because what Amina is about to discover will change everything." 3 days later, Amina was back on night shift. Her normal routine, her normal floor. The building was almost empty by the time she arrived at 10 p.m. Just security, a few workaholics in their offices, and the cleaning crew scattered across 40 floors. She started with the executive kitchen, then moved to the private lounge. It was a smaller room, tucked behind the main conference area, with soft chairs and a bar that nobody seemed to use. She had cleaned it 100 times. It was always empty at this hour. She was restocking the lower shelf behind the bar counter, organizing bottles that didn't need organizing, when she heard voices in the hallway. 2 people, talking quietly. Getting closer. Amina's first instinct was to stand up, make her presence known. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the tone of the voices, low and careful. Maybe it was the fact that they weren't supposed to be here either. Maybe it was just instinct. She stayed crouched behind the counter. The door opened. 2 sets of footsteps entered. He actually looked relieved when the doctor told him. A woman's voice, young, tired. That's the part I didn't expect. Good. A man's voice, familiar. A man who thinks he's already lost everything stops fighting for it. Amina's hands froze on the bottle she was holding. And the baby story, the woman said, quieter now. He believed that too. There was a pause, footsteps moving toward the window. "Hyun, listen to me," the man said. Park Sung-jun. Amina recognized his voice now. By the time he signs everything over, it won't matter what he believes. "I know," the woman said. "Hey, Eun. I know. It's just when he looks at me sometimes, like he's trying so hard to, I don't know, to be happy about it." "You're doing perfectly," Sung-jun said. His voice was warm, reassuring. The kind of warm that made Amina's skin crawl. 2 more weeks, 3 at most. Then it's done. Their footsteps moved toward the door. Amina pressed herself against the cabinet, barely breathing. What if he doesn't sign? Hyun asked. He will, Sung-jun said. He's already half gone. Dr. Choi confirmed the latest tests show exactly what we need them to show. Jiho thinks he's dying, Ha-eun. He thinks he has 6 months, maybe less. He wants to believe he's leaving something good behind. That's where you come in. The door opened. That's where we both come in, Ha-eun said softly. Then they were gone. Amina stayed behind the counter for a long time. Her knees hurt from crouching. Her heart was doing something complicated in her chest. Her mind was racing, trying to sort through what she had just heard. He thinks he's dying. The baby story. Signs, everything over. She stood up slowly, carefully, like the room might explode if she moved too fast. The lounge was empty. The bottles on the shelf looked the same as they always did. Everything looked normal. But nothing was normal. Amina left the lounge, pushed her cart down the hallway, went through the motions of cleaning the rest of the floor. Her hands worked automatically while her brain tried to make sense of the fragments. She didn't know these people. Not really. She knew Kang Jiho by reputation, by the careful distance everyone kept from him, by the way his name came up in whispers. She had met Park Sung-jun once, briefly, and he had seemed perfectly pleasant. She didn't know Ha-eun at all, and what she had heard, it could mean anything. Could be business, could be something she misunderstood, could be none of her business in any possible interpretation of the phrase. She should forget it. She should finish her shift, go home, sleep, wake up, live her life. She should not think about this again. That's what she told herself on the bus ride home. That's what she told herself while making tea in her dark apartment. That's what she was still telling herself when she lay in bed at 4 a.m, staring at the ceiling, hearing Park Sung-jun's voice in her head. A man who thinks he's already lost everything stops fighting for it. She got up, made more tea, sat by the window and watched Seoul wake up. When Yoonji shuffled out of her bedroom at 6, she found Amina still sitting there. You okay? Yoonji asked, her hair sticking up at odd angles. Yeah, Amina said. Couldn't sleep. Work stuff? Something like that. Yoonji poured herself coffee, sat down across from Amina. They had been roommates for 2 years now, an arrangement born of necessity that had turned into real friendship. Yoonji asked questions, but never too many. Amina appreciated that. You have that look, Yoonji said. What look? The look you get when you're trying to convince yourself of something you don't actually believe. Amina managed a small smile. I'm fine, really. Okay, Yoonji said, clearly not believing her but kind enough not to push. I'm working a double today. There's leftover bibimbap in the fridge. Thanks. After Yoonji left, Amina tried to sleep. Failed. Tried to watch something on her phone. Failed at that, too. Finally, she gave up and started getting ready for another day. She wasn't scheduled to work until the evening, which meant she had hours to fill. She went to the library, tried to read, ended up staring at the same page for 20 minutes. Went to the park, sat on a bench, watched people live their normal lives. Everything felt strange now, like someone had tilted the world 3 degrees to the left, and she was the only one who noticed. That evening, she arrived at work early, clocked in, grabbed her cart, took the elevator up. The executive floor was quiet again. A few lights on in offices, but most people had gone home. She cleaned methodically, carefully, trying to lose herself in the routine. But when she reached the hallway outside Jiho's private office, she slowed down. The door was closed. Light showed underneath. She was wiping down the hallway mirror when the door opened. A man came out, older, carrying a leather medical bag. He nodded at her absently and headed toward the elevator. Dr. Choi, her brain supplied. Dr. Choi confirmed the latest tests. 2 minutes later, Park Sung-jun emerged from the same office. He saw her, smiled, that practiced smile. Amina, right? He said. Working hard as always. She nodded, kept wiping the already clean mirror. He walked past her toward the elevator, humming something under his breath. He looked pleased, satisfied. Amina waited until she heard the elevator doors close. Then she waited another full minute. Then she very carefully, very quietly, moved her cart closer to Jiho's office door. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop. She was just cleaning the hallway. If she happened to hear anything, that wasn't her fault. But she didn't hear anything. The office was silent. She knocked lightly on the doorframe. "Excuse me, sir. Do you need the office cleaned tonight, or should I come back later?" No answer. She knocked again, a little louder. "Sir, come in." His voice sounded hollow. Amina pushed the door open slowly. Jiho sat behind his desk, staring at nothing. In front of him were papers, reports, things with medical logos at the top. He looked, if possible, more tired than she had ever seen him. "I can come back," she said. He blinked, focused on her like he was remembering where he was. "No, it's fine. I'm leaving anyway." He stood up, gathered the papers into a folder. His movements were slow, careful, like everything hurt. He was maybe 32, 33 years old. He moved like he was 80. "Sir," Amina said before she could stop herself. "Are you all right?" He looked at her then, really looked at her. For a second, something passed across his face. Surprise, maybe, that she had asked. Or that anyone had asked. "I'm fine," he said. "Thank you." He walked past her, out of the office, down the hallway. She watched him go, watched the way he held himself together, like he was afraid of breaking. She thinks he's dying. Amina turned back to the office. She should clean it and leave. That was her job. Clean and leave. But instead, she stood there, looking at the desk where Jiho had been sitting, looking at the small trash can beside it, where he had thrown away what looked like a tissue, like maybe he had been crying or trying not to. On the desk sat a framed photograph, old, a little faded. A man she didn't recognize with a young boy who was definitely Jiho, maybe 10 years old. The boy held the man's hand with both of his own, like he was afraid to let go. Something in her chest tightened. She cleaned the office quickly, efficiently, trying not to think, trying not to feel, trying not to care about things that were absolutely none of her business. When she finished, she pushed her cart back to the supply room and made a decision. She was going to forget everything she heard, everything she saw. She was going to come to work, do her job, go home, and live her life. That was the smart choice, the safe choice, the only choice that made sense. She almost convinced herself. The next week passed in a strange fog. Amina went to work, cleaned the executive floor, avoided looking too closely at anything. But once you start seeing patterns, you can't unsee them. She saw Dr. Choi come to the building twice more. Both times Park Sung-joon appeared shortly after. Both times, Ji-ho looked worse when they left. She saw Ha-eun for the first time in person. Young, maybe 26 or 27, pretty in a careful way. She came to the executive floor on a Wednesday evening, carrying shopping bags with logos from expensive stores. Amina was cleaning the hallway when Ha-eun passed her without a glance. Through the glass wall of the conference room, Amina watched Ha-eun greet Ji-ho, watched her smile, bright and warm, watched her take his hand, say something that made him almost smile back. And then, for just a second, when Ji-ho turned to get something from the credenza, Amina watched Ha-eun's face change. The smile dropped, the warmth disappeared. What replaced it was something complicated, tired, guilty. Then Ji-ho turned back and the smile returned, perfect and false. Amina pushed her cart away before either of them noticed her staring. That night, she couldn't sleep again. She lay in bed, listening to Yoonji snore in the next room, and tried to figure out what she was supposed to do with any of this. She had pieces of something, fragments, a conversation about signing things over, a doctor who seemed wrong, a woman who smiled on cue, a man who thought he was dying. But pieces weren't proof. Fragments weren't facts. And even if they were, what was she supposed to do? March into Kang Ji-ho's office and tell him what? That she overheard a conversation she didn't fully understand? That she had a feeling based on watching people's faces? She was a cleaning woman on a work visa. He was, she had learned from overhead conversations, the head of one of the most powerful logistics companies in Seoul. And also, apparently, other things that people mentioned in whispers she pretended not to hear. There was no version of this where he listened to her, where anyone listened to her. She rolled over, pulled the blanket over her head, and tried to force sleep. Instead, she kept seeing Ji-ho's face when he looked at that photograph, kept hearing the sound of his cough, kept thinking about the way Park Sung-joon smiled. At 4 a.m, she gave up on sleep, got up, made tea, sat by the window, took out her phone, and started typing. Not a plan, exactly, just notes. Everything she remembered, in the order she remembered it. The conversation in the lounge, the dates she saw Dr. Choi, the way Ha-eun's performance shifted when she thought no one was watching, the medical papers on Ji-ho's desk, the timeline Sung-joon mentioned. 2 weeks, 3 at most. That was 10 days ago. Her hands shook as she typed. She saved the notes in a password-protected app, then immediately questioned why she was bothering. What was she going to do with this? Nothing. She was going to do nothing because doing anything was impossible and dangerous and stupid. She set the phone down and watched the sun come up over Seoul. The decision she had made to forget everything, to stay out of it, to protect herself, it made perfect sense. It was the right choice. So why did it feel like the worst thing she had ever done? Amina went back to work that evening with a plan, a simple plan. Keep her head down, finish the week, stop paying attention to things that weren't her business. She had survived 3 years in Seoul by being smart and invisible. No reason to change strategy now. The executive floor was busier than usual when she arrived. People in dark suits moving between offices, voices kept low, an energy in the air that felt tense. Something was happening. Amina didn't ask what, didn't make eye contact. Just pushed her cart toward the far hallway and started with the private bathroom. She was replacing the hand towels when she heard raised voices from down the hall. Not quite yelling, but close. She paused, towels in hand, listening despite herself. "You can't ask me to do this." Ji-ho's voice, strained in a way she hadn't heard before. "Not yet." "I'm not asking," another voice responded, older, harsh. "The board wants answers. Your health, the succession plan, all of it. They want it formalized." I said not yet. Ji-ho. A third voice, calm and measured. Park Sung-joon. "Nobody's trying to pressure you. We just need to be prepared. You've seen the test results yourself. Being responsible means having plans in place." Silence. Amina realized she had stopped breathing. "I know," Ji-ho said finally, quieter now, defeated. "I know. Give me until the end of the month." "Of course," Sung-joon said warmly. "Whatever you need. We're here to help." Footsteps approached. Amina quickly finished with the towels, grabbed her cart, and moved toward the next room. She passed the 3 men in the hallway. The older one ignored her completely. Sung-joon gave her a brief nod. Ji-ho didn't seem to see her at all. End of the month. That was 2 weeks away. Amina's hands gripped the cart handle hard enough to hurt. She finished cleaning the bathrooms, moved to the executive kitchen, went through all the motions. Professional, invisible, safe. But when she reached the kitchen, she noticed something. The counter where Ji-ho usually left his medication bottles was empty. She glanced around, checking if he had moved them. Nothing. Then she saw them. In the small, private cabinet above the coffee maker, the one that was usually locked. Today it stood slightly open, like someone had closed it in a hurry. Through the gap, she could see the 3 bottles. Her supervisor's voice echoed in her head. "Don't touch anything that isn't yours to clean." Amina stared at the cabinet, at the bottles inside, at the choice in front of her. She reached up, carefully pulled the cabinet open wider. The 3 bottles sat in a neat row. She picked up the first one, the prescription medication. The label said it was for nausea and appetite. Prescribed by Dr. Choi 2 months ago. The second bottle was vitamins. Nothing strange about that. The third bottle made her pause. It was also from Dr. Choi, also prescribed 2 months ago. The label said it was a supplement for immune support. But when she held it up to the light, the pills inside looked different from each other. Some were darker. Some seemed larger. That wasn't normal, was it? Amina set the bottle down quickly, like it had burned her. She closed the cabinet, stepped back, told herself she was imagining things, but her hands found her phone anyway. She pulled up the Notes app, added to her growing file. Kitchen cabinet, third bottle. Pills look inconsistent. She was still staring at her phone when she heard footsteps behind her. Working late? Amina spun around. Park Sung-joon stood in the doorway, jacket off, tie loosened. That same pleasant smile on his face. Just finishing the kitchen, Amina said, shoving her phone into her pocket. You're very thorough, he said, walking farther into the room. I've noticed that. You pay attention to details. Something cold slid down her spine. I just try to do good work. It shows. He poured himself water from the dispenser, drank it slowly. You know, I've been meaning to ask, how long have you been in Seoul? 3 years. You like it here? Yes, sir. And the work? You like working for Director Kang's company? Every instinct in her body was screaming at her to run, but running would look suspicious. So she stayed still, kept her voice level. Yes, sir. It's a good job. Good. He set the glass down, looked at her directly. It's important to appreciate good jobs, especially when visa situations can be so complicated. Her blood went cold. I should finish cleaning, she said. Of course. He picked up his jacket from where he had draped it over a chair. Have a good night, Amina. He left. She waited until his footsteps faded completely before she let herself shake. He knows. Or he suspects. Or he's just making conversation and she was paranoid. But the way he mentioned her visa, the way he said it. That wasn't casual. Amina finished the kitchen in record time, grabbed her cart, and headed for the service elevator. She needed to get out of this building, needed to think, needed to figure out what to do. The elevator doors opened. Dr. Choi stood inside. They stared at each other for a second. He looked surprised to see her. Nervous, maybe. Going down? He asked. She nodded, wheeled her cart inside. The doors closed. The elevator descended in silence. Dr. Choi kept glancing at her, then away, then back again, like he wanted to say something but couldn't figure out how. Long day? Amina asked, just to break the tension. What? He blinked. Oh, yes, very long. More silence. The elevator passed the 15th floor. 14th, 13th. Can I ask you something? Dr. Choi said suddenly. Amina looked at him. Up close, he looked exhausted. Not tired, exhausted in a deeper way. Haunted. Sure, she said carefully. He opened his mouth, closed it, shook his head. Never mind. It's nothing. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened. Dr. Choi hurried out like he was escaping something. Amina watched him go, her mind racing. He wanted to tell her something. She was sure of it. Something that made him look like a man drowning. She returned her cart to the supply room, clocked out, and left the building. The night air hit her face, cool and sharp. She walked to the bus stop, checked over her shoulder twice to make sure no one was following her. On the bus ride home, she pulled out her phone and stared at her notes. Pages of observations, fragments of conversations, gut feelings that might mean nothing. Or might mean everything. If you're still with me, I need you to do something. Drop a comment and tell me what you think Amina should do, because the choice she's about to make is going to put her in serious danger. And while you're down there, subscribe if you haven't already. This story is about to take a turn that nobody sees coming. When Amina got home, Yoonji was watching a drama on the couch, eating ramen straight from the pot. Want some? Yoonji offered. No thanks. Amina dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes. You look stressed. Just tired. Yoonji paused her show, turned to look at Amina properly. Okay, what's going on? And don't say nothing, because you've been weird for like 2 weeks. Amina sat down on the couch, pulled her knees up to her chest. If you saw something at work, something that might be really bad, but you weren't sure, and getting involved could cost you everything, what would you do? Yoonji set down her ramen. That's pretty specific for a hypothetical. I know. Does this have anything to do with your boss, the scary rich one? He's not scary, Amina said, and I don't know. Maybe. Yoonji was quiet for a moment. Look, I can't tell you what to do, but I know you. You're the person who stopped to help that old lady carry her groceries up 4 flights of stairs, even though you were late for work. You're the person who spent 3 hours helping me study for my citizenship test, even though you had the flu. You care about people, even when you shouldn't. That sounds like a character flaw. Maybe. Yoonji smiled sadly. But it's also why people love you. So if you're asking me what you should do, I think you already know. The question is whether you're brave enough to do it. Amina rested her head on her knees. What if I'm wrong? What if you're right? That was the question, wasn't it? Amina didn't sleep that night either. Instead, she lay in bed and played out scenarios in her head. She could go to Jiho directly, tell him what she heard. But he had no reason to trust her. She was nobody to him. And if Sungjun found out she had talked, her visa situation would become very complicated very quickly. She could go to the police, tell them she suspected something. But suspected what, exactly? That some pills looked weird? That she overheard a conversation that could be interpreted a dozen different ways? They would laugh her out of the station. She could do nothing. Let whatever was going to happen, happen. It wasn't her responsibility to save a man she barely knew. Except every time she closed her eyes, she saw Jiho's face when he looked at that photograph of his father. Saw the way he tried so hard to hold himself together. Saw a man who thought he was dying and was trying to make peace with it. If he was being lied to. If someone was poisoning him, making him sick, manipulating him into giving everything away. She couldn't just do nothing. At 5 in the morning, she made a decision. She needed proof, real proof, not just suspicions and observations. And there was only one way to get it. She needed a sample of those pills, needed them tested, needed to know for sure what was in them. It was a terrible plan. Dangerous, and probably illegal. But it was the only plan she had. Amina waited until her next shift, 2 days later. She came in early, before the executive floor got busy. Brought with her a small plastic bag hidden in her cleaning supplies. The kitchen was empty. The cabinet was locked this time. Her hands shook as she pulled out the lockpick set she had bought from a hardware store. She had watched 3 YouTube videos on how to pick simple locks. In the videos, it looked easy. In real life, it took her 7 minutes, and a lot of panicked glancing at the door. Finally, the lock clicked. The cabinet opened. The 3 bottles sat inside, exactly where she had seen them last. Amina grabbed the 3rd bottle, the one with the inconsistent pills, twisted the cap open, tipped 3 pills into the plastic bag, closed the bottle, put it back, locked the cabinet. She shoved the plastic bag deep into her pocket just as she heard voices in the hallway. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She grabbed her cleaning cloth, started wiping down the counter with hands that wouldn't quite steady. Park Sung-jun walked in with Ha-eun. They were talking quietly, didn't notice Amina at first. She kept her head down, kept cleaning. The dinner tomorrow night, Ha-eun was saying. What should I wear? Something nice, Sung-jun said. The board members will be there. You're the future mother of his child. You need to look the part. Ha-eun made a small sound, something between a laugh and a sob. Right. The part. Ha-eun. Sung-jun's voice dropped, became gentle. I know this is hard, but it's almost over. Just a little longer. And then what? Ha-eun asked. Then we just, what? Disappear? Pretend none of this happened? Then we have everything Dad worked for before Ji-ho's father destroyed him, Sung-jun said quietly. Everything we were supposed to have. Everything that should have been ours. Amina's cloth stopped moving. She forced it to start again. Ha-won's voice cracked. He's not what I thought he would be. He's kind. Did you know that? He's actually kind. He's a criminal, Sung-jun said flatly. His family built their empire on violence and exploitation. Don't let him fool you into thinking otherwise. I know, hey. Sung-jun's voice softened again. Look at me. We're doing the right thing. Okay? Trust me. Okay, Ha-won whispered. Footsteps moved toward the door, then stopped. Oh, Sung-jun said. Amina. I didn't see you there. She turned, forced a neutral expression. Just cleaning. I can come back if you need the kitchen. No, we're leaving. His eyes searched her face like he was looking for something. You didn't happen to see anyone else up here this morning, did you? No, sir. Just me. Good. He smiled. You have a good day. They left. Amina waited until she couldn't hear their footsteps anymore before she let herself lean against the counter. Her pocket felt like it was burning where the pills pressed against her leg. She had what she needed. Now, she just had to figure out what to do with it. The testing lab was in Gangnam, tucked between a cosmetics shop and a tutoring academy. Amina had found it online, a place that did private testing for medications and supplements. It cost more than she wanted to spend, but she didn't have a choice. The technician was young, bored-looking, barely glanced at her when she handed over the pills. What are we testing for? He asked. I just need to know what's in them, Amina said. Everything that's in them. Full analysis will take 3 days, cost you 200,000 won. Amina handed over the money before she could think too hard about it. That was half her rent. But if she was right, if these pills were something they shouldn't be, it would be worth it. If she was wrong, she had just wasted 2 weeks of grocery money on paranoia. The technician gave her a receipt. We'll call when it's ready. 3 days. She had to wait 3 days. Amina left the lab and took the subway back to her neighborhood, stopped at a convenience store, bought ramen and coffee, told herself everything would be fine. Her phone buzzed. A text from her supervisor. Need you to work tomorrow morning. Day shift. Executive floor. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't worked a day shift in weeks. Why now? She texted back confirmation, tried not to read anything into it. Maybe someone called in sick. Maybe they were short-staffed. Maybe it meant nothing. Or maybe Park Sung-jun had requested her specifically. That night, Amina couldn't eat. Couldn't focus on anything. She told Yoonji she felt sick, locked herself in her room, and stared at the ceiling. She had crossed a line. There was no going back now. Either the test results would prove she was right, or they would prove she was paranoid and reckless, and had just thrown away money she couldn't afford to lose. Either way, she had made a choice. The next morning, she went to work with the pills safely at the lab and a knot of anxiety in her stomach. The executive floor was busy, people everywhere. She cleaned methodically, avoided looking at anyone, tried to blend into the walls. At 11, Ji-ho emerged from his office. He looked worse than she had ever seen him. Pale, shaky, like standing upright took effort. Dr. Choi was with him, holding his arm like he might fall. You need to rest, the doctor was saying. The treatment is hard on your system. You're pushing yourself too hard. I have a meeting, Ji-ho said. Cancel it. I can't. They passed Amina in the hallway. Ji-ho's eyes met hers for just a second. There was something in them. Pain, yes, but also something else. A kind of resignation that made her chest hurt. He thought he was dying. He really thought he was dying. She watched them disappear into the elevator, and something in her solidified. She wasn't wrong. She couldn't be wrong. The way Dr. Choi held him, the way Sung-jun orchestrated everything, the way Ha-eun played her part. This was real, and she was the only person who knew. The thought was terrifying, but it was also clarifying. She had 3 days until the test results came back. 3 days to figure out what to do with them. 3 days to decide if she was brave enough to fight people who were so much more powerful than her. She thought about Yoonji's words. You care about people, even when you shouldn't. Yeah, she did. Amina finished her shift and went home to wait. The 3 days passed like 3 years. Amina worked her normal shifts, avoided Sungjun when she could, watched Ji-ho deteriorate in real time. By the 3rd day, he was barely coming out of his office. People whispered about his health, about the upcoming board meeting, about what would happen to the company. Ha-eun was there constantly now, playing the devoted fiancé, bringing him food he couldn't eat, sitting beside him in meetings. Amina watched her performance get better and her eyes get more haunted. On the morning of the 3rd day, Amina's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? This is the lab, a voice said. Your test results are ready. Her heart stopped. And? You'll need to come pick them up. We don't discuss results over the phone. She took an early lunch, caught the subway to Gangnam, walked into the lab with her hands shaking. The same board technician handed her an envelope. Interesting sample, he said. Interesting how? The pills had 3 different compounds. 2 of them matched what you'd expect in immune supplements. The 3rd one is usually used in chemotherapy patients, to manage side effects. Amina stared at him. Why would it be in a supplement? He shrugged. No idea. But in the doses we found, it would make someone feel pretty sick. Nausea, fatigue, weakness, all the symptoms of someone going through cancer treatment without the actual treatment. The world tilted sideways. Are you saying, Amina said slowly, that someone taking these pills would feel like they were dying, even if they were perfectly healthy? I'm saying these pills would make someone very sick for no medical reason. He looked at her curiously. Where did you get these? Doesn't matter. She grabbed the envelope. Thank you. She left the lab, walked 3 blocks before her legs gave out, sat down on a bench, opened the envelope, read the full report. There it was. In clinical language, in scientific terms, in undeniable black and white. Proof. Kang Ji-ho wasn't dying. He was being poisoned. Slowly, carefully, methodically poisoned, to feel like he was dying. So he would give everything away to the people he trusted. Amina sat on that bench and tried to figure out how to save a man who didn't know he needed saving. Her phone buzzed. A text from her supervisor. Director Kang has requested you specifically for his office cleaning tonight. Report at 8 p.m. Her blood went cold. Requested her specifically. The day after she took the pills. The day the test results came back. That couldn't be a coincidence. Amina looked at the envelope in her hands. Looked at the test results that proved everything. Looked at the choice in front of her. She could run. Pack her things, leave Seoul, disappear before anyone connected her to the missing pills. Or she could go to work tonight and face whatever was waiting for her. She thought about Ji-ho's face, about the photograph of him and his father, about the way he tried so hard to be strong while falling apart. She thought about Park Sungjun's smile and Ha-eun's guilt and Dr. Choi's haunted eyes. She thought about the person she wanted to be versus the person who stayed safe. Then she went home, put the test results in a manila folder, and started getting ready for work. If they wanted her, they could have her. But she wasn't going down without a fight. At 7:30 that evening, Amina stood in front of her bathroom mirror and made a plan. Not a good plan. Not even a smart plan. But a plan. She couldn't go to the police. Kang Ji-ho was connected to things that made police nervous. Going to them would just paint a target on her back. She couldn't tell her supervisor. He worked for the same company, probably owed his job to Sung-jun's approval. That left one option. Tell Ji-ho directly, show him the test results, hope he believed her before Sung-jun found out what she knew. The problem was simple. How do you walk up to a man who thinks he's dying and tell him it's all a lie? How do you convince someone that the people he trusts most are destroying him? And how do you do it without getting yourself killed in the process? Amina tucked the manila folder into her bag, under her cleaning supplies. Wore her normal work uniform. Tried to look like someone who wasn't about to blow up her entire life. Yoonji caught her at the door. "You're shaking." "I'm fine. Amina, whatever you're about to do, please be careful." "I will. I'm serious. You look like you're going to war." "Maybe I am." Amina managed a weak smile. "If I'm not back by midnight, check the news." "That's not funny." "I know." She left before Yoonji could ask more questions. The bus ride to the office building felt like riding toward an execution. Every stop, every turn, every moment brought her closer to the point of no return. At 8 exactly, she walked into the building. The security guard waved her through without looking up. The lobby was nearly empty, just a few late workers heading home. Amina took the elevator to the executive floor. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The doors opened. The hallway was dark except for one office at the end. Light spilled from under Jiho's door. She pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway, each step feeling like walking through water. When she reached his door, she knocked. "Come in." She pushed the door open. Jiho sat behind his desk, looking worse than ever. His skin had taken on a gray tone. His hands shook slightly as he held a pen. "You asked for me?" Amina said. He looked up, seemed confused. "I didn't ask for anyone." Her stomach dropped. "My supervisor said you requested me specifically." "I didn't." He frowned. "Maybe there was a miscommunication. But since you're here, you can clean. I'll be leaving soon anyway." So Sung-Jun had sent the message, which meant he knew, or suspected, or was testing her. Amina's mind raced. She had maybe 5 minutes before Sung-Jun showed up, maybe less. "Sir," she said, "can I ask you something?" Jiho looked at her tiredly. "What?" "Do you trust the people around you?" His expression shifted, guarded now. "That's an odd question." "I know, I just—" She took a breath. "If someone told you something impossible, something about people you trusted, would you listen?" "Amina." He set down his pen. "What are you trying to say?" This was it. The moment. She could back down, apologize, say she was just making conversation. Go back to her safe, invisible life, or she could jump. "You're not dying," she said. Silence. Jiho stared at her like she had just spoken a different language. "Excuse me?" "You're not sick. The pills you're taking, the ones Dr. Choi prescribed, they're making you sick. On purpose." His face went through several expressions. Confusion. Anger. Something that might have been hope before he crushed it down. "You need to leave," he said quietly. "I have proof." Amina pulled the manila folder from her bag, set it on his desk. "I took 3 pills from your medication bottle, had them tested at a private lab. They contain compounds that mimic the side effects of chemotherapy. They're designed to make you feel like you're dying when you're perfectly healthy." Jiho didn't touch the folder. "Do you understand what you're accusing people of?" "Yes." "Do you understand what happens to people who make accusations like this without evidence?" "I have evidence. It's in the folder." "No." He stood up, moved away from the desk like the folder might explode. "No, this is. You're a cleaning woman. You don't have access to my private medication. You don't have the authority or the expertise to make these claims. And whoever put you up to this, whoever is using you to, I don't know, to destabilize me or create chaos, you need to tell them it didn't work." "Nobody put me up to anything," Amina said. "I overheard a conversation between Park Sung-Jun and his sister about how you think you're dying, how they're waiting for you to sign everything over. I've been watching for 2 weeks. I've seen the patterns. I took the pills because I needed to be sure, and now I am. Get out. Please just look at the test results." "I said get out." His voice cracked. He gripped the edge of the desk like he might fall. "I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested. You're fired. Leave now before I call security." Amina's heart broke a little, Because she understood. Of course he didn't believe her. Why would he? She was nobody. And the people she was accusing, they were everything to him. Okay, she said quietly. I'll go. But the folder stays. Even if you don't believe me, even if you think I'm crazy, please, just read it. She turned toward the door. It opened before she reached it. Park Sung-joon stood in the doorway, smiling. Am I interrupting something? Every muscle in Amina's body locked up. Amina was just leaving, Ji-ho said. She's no longer employed here. Oh? Sung-joon's eyes moved between them, calculating. What happened? Nothing. A misunderstanding. It didn't sound like nothing. Sung-joon stepped into the office, closed the door behind him. Amina was trapped between him and Ji-ho's desk. I heard raised voices. Is everything all right? It's fine, Ji-ho said. I'll handle it. Sung-joon's gaze landed on the manila folder on the desk. What's that? Nothing important. Really? He moved closer, picked up the folder before Ji-ho could stop him, opened it, started reading. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, became very still. This is interesting, he said quietly. Very interesting. Amina, did you prepare this? She didn't answer. It's nothing, Ji-ho said. She's confused, making accusations that don't make sense. No, I think they make perfect sense. Sung-joon set the folder down carefully. In fact, I think this is exactly the kind of thing we should take seriously. Ji-ho, you should read this. Ji-ho blinked. What? Read it, Sung-joon said. If someone is claiming your medication is compromised, that's a serious allegation. We should investigate. This was wrong. Sung-joon was supposed to be defensive, angry, trying to discredit her. Instead, he was agreeing? Unless, Sung-joon continued, looking directly at Amina, there's something else going on here. Maybe someone is trying to undermine your trust in your medical care, make you paranoid. Stop taking the medication that's keeping you alive. And there it was, the spin. That's not what this is, Amina said. No? Then what is it? Sung-joon's voice was gentle, reasonable. You're a cleaning woman with no medical training. You stole medication from your employer's private cabinet, had it tested without his knowledge or consent, and now you're presenting results that conveniently suggest his doctor is poisoning him. Does that sound reasonable to you? Ji-ho was looking at her differently now, not angry anymore. Wary. Or maybe, Sung-joon continued, someone is paying you to create exactly this kind of chaos, to make Ji-ho distrust the people trying to help him, to isolate him. Nobody's paying me, Amina said. I heard you, in the private lounge 2 weeks ago. You and Ha-eun, talking about how Ji-ho thinks he's dying, how he'll sign everything over. I heard you. Sung-joon's smile didn't waver. I have no idea what you're talking about. Ji-ho, I've never even met this woman before last week. I certainly haven't had any private conversations with my sister in the office lounges. You're lying. Am I? Or are you making things up because someone promised you money? A visa extension? What did they offer you, Amina? She wanted to scream, because he was good. He was so good. Every word out of his mouth sounded perfectly reasonable, and she had nothing but her word against his. I'm telling the truth, she said desperately. Please, just test the pills yourself. Have someone independent analyze them. You'll see I'm right. Of course we will, Sung-joon said. We'll investigate this thoroughly. In fact, I think we should call Dr. Choi right now. Get his professional opinion. No, Amina said. He's part of it. He's the one prescribing the pills. Listen to yourself, Sung-joon said softly. You're accusing a respected physician of attempted murder. You're accusing me of conspiracy. Do you understand how paranoid you sound? Ji-ho sank into his chair. He looked exhausted, confused, like he was trying to process something impossible. I think we should call the police, Sung-joon said. Let them sort this out. Theft of private medication is a crime. Breaking and entering. Fraud. I didn't break in, Amina said. I cleaned that kitchen every night. The cabinet lock was simple. So you admit to picking the lock. That's breaking and entering. Amina's world was crumbling. Everything she had tried to do, all the evidence she had gathered, Sung-jun was turning it into proof of her own crimes. Ji-ho, she said, looking past Sung-jun to the man behind the desk. I know you don't know me. I know you have no reason to trust me. But I'm not lying. I heard what I heard. I tested what I tested. And those pills are poisoning you. Ji-ho met her eyes. For a long moment, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or just exhaustion. Why would you do this? He asked quietly. If what you're saying is true, why risk everything to tell me? Because nobody else will, Amina said. Because you're dying, and you're not even dying. And that's wrong. Because I've seen you with that photograph on your desk, the one of you and your father, and you look at it like you're trying to remember what it feels like to have someone who cares. And I thought maybe someone should care. Silence. Then Sung-jun laughed. It was a gentle laugh, sympathetic even. That's a very touching story. But Ji-ho, we both know what's really happening here. Someone's gotten to her, convinced her to play on your emotions. This is exactly the kind of manipulation we've been worried about. Maybe, Ji-ho said slowly, or maybe she's telling the truth. Sung-jun's smile froze. What? The pills. Ji-ho opened his desk drawer, pulled out the 3 bottles. I've been taking these for 2 months, and I've felt worse every day. What if she's right? She's not right. She's a liar. Then we test them. Ji-ho set the bottles on the desk. Independent lab, not Dr. Choi. Someone with no connection to any of us. Ji-ho, you're not thinking clearly. Maybe not. But I'm thinking clearly enough to know that if I'm dying, really dying, then testing the pills won't change anything. And if I'm not, his eyes hardened. If I'm not, then someone here is lying to me. Sung-jun's mask slipped, just for a second, but Amina saw it, the rage underneath the reasonable smile. You're making a mistake, he said. Probably. Ji-ho looked at Amina, but I've made worse ones. That's when the door burst open. Dr. Choi stood there, breathing hard like he had run up the stairs. Ha-eun was right behind him. I can't do this anymore, Dr. Choi said. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but I can't. Everyone froze. Dr. Choi, Sung-jun said carefully. What are you talking about? The pills, the fake diagnosis, all of it. The doctor looked at Ji-ho with something like desperation. You're not sick. You've never been sick. I've been lying to you for 2 months. Sung-jun made me. He has my daughter. He said if I didn't help him, he'd hurt her. Ha-eun made a small sound. Oppa, you told me you'd let her go after. Shut up, Sung-jun snapped. You said nobody would get hurt. You said Dad's company being destroyed by the Kang family was justification enough. You said we were just taking back what was ours. I said shut up! The room exploded into chaos. Dr. Choi was talking over everyone, explaining about the fake test results, the medication designed to make Ji-ho sick. Ha-eun was crying, backing toward the door. Sung-jun was trying to control the situation, but his calm mask was completely gone now. And Ji-ho sat very still, taking it all in. So it's true, he said finally, quietly. All of it. Ji-ho, Sung-jun started. Don't. Ji-ho's voice was cold, colder than Amina had ever heard it. Don't say my name. Don't say anything. You don't understand. Your father destroyed my family, took everything we built, left us with nothing. So you decided to destroy me. I decided to take back what was ours. By making me think I was dying, by using Ha-eun too. What was the plan? Fake pregnancy? Make me sign everything over to my unborn child, who conveniently wouldn't exist. Ha-eun sobbed. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would feel like this. I didn't know you would be. I thought you'd be like your father. I am like my father, Jiho said bitterly. I trusted the wrong people. Amina stood against the wall, trying to process everything. Dr. Choi had broken, just walked in and confessed everything. Why? What changed? The doctor seemed to read her confusion. You, he said, looking at her. In the elevator last week, you asked if I was okay. Nobody's asked me that in months. And I realized I was helping destroy a man because I was too afraid to fight back. I couldn't live with it anymore. Sometimes, Amina thought, all it takes is one person asking the right question. Sung Jun was backing toward the door now. This isn't over. Yes, Jiho said. It is. Security. 2 guards appeared in the doorway. Jiho gave them a look, and they moved toward Sung Jun. You're making a mistake, Sung Jun said. My family has connections, lawyers, people who can make your life very difficult. Let them try, Jiho said. Take him. The guards grabbed Sung Jun's arms. He struggled, that careful mask completely shattered now. This isn't over. You hear me? My father's company, everything your family stole. I'll burn your entire empire down. They dragged him out. His voice echoed down the hallway until it faded completely. Ha-Un stood in the corner, shaking. I should go. Yes, Jiho said. You should. I'm sorry, she whispered, for whatever that's worth. It's worth nothing. He turned away from her. But you're not your brother. So I'll give you a choice. Leave now. Disappear. Or stay and face the consequences with him. Ha-Un left without another word. Dr. Choi remained, looking at Jiho with desperate hope. My daughter. He really does have her. I don't know where. I've been trying to find her for weeks. Give me her information, Jiho said. I'll find her. Thank you. Thank you. Jiho made a phone call, gave quiet instructions to someone. Then he hung up, and finally looked at Amina. She was still standing against the wall, her bag of cleaning supplies at her feet, her whole body shaking with adrenaline. You were right, he said. Yeah. You could have walked away. Should have walked away. I know. Why didn't you? Amina thought about all the reasons. Because it was the right thing to do. Because she couldn't live with herself if she didn't. Because she knew what it felt like to be alone in a foreign country with no one to trust. But what she said was simpler. Because someone had to care. Jiho's expression did something complicated. You're fired, you know. I meant that. Her heart sank. Oh. But I'm hiring you back. Different position, better pay. And I'm fixing whatever visa issues you have. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. You saved my life. Literally saved my life. The least I can do is make sure you can stay in the country legally. Amina didn't know what to say. Thank you. No, Jiho said. Thank you. They stood there for a moment. 2 people who had been strangers 12 hours ago and were now connected by something neither of them fully understood yet. Before we wrap this up, I need to ask you something. What would you have done in Amina's position? Would you have risked everything to help a stranger? Drop your answer in the comments, and if this story kept you hooked until the end, hit that subscribe button. Because stories like this, they remind us why caring about people matters, even when it costs us everything. 3 weeks later, Amina sat in her new office on the executive floor and tried to remember what normal felt like. The official story was simple. Park Sung-jun had been embezzling from the company, creating fake medical records to manipulate Ji-ho into early succession. When discovered, he had fled. There was a warrant out for his arrest. The real story was more complicated. Sung-jun's father's company had been absorbed by Ji-ho's father 15 years ago in a hostile takeover. Sung-jun spent years planning revenge, infiltrated the organization, gained Ji-ho's trust, almost succeeded. Dr. Choi's daughter was found 3 days after the confrontation, safe, scared, but alive. The doctor was cooperating with authorities, providing evidence of everything Sung-jun had forced him to do. Ha-un had disappeared, Rumor said she left Korea entirely. Amina hoped she found peace somewhere. And Jiho was recovering. Off the poisoned medication, his health had improved dramatically within days. The gray tone left his skin. The shaking stopped. He looked younger now, lighter, like he had put down something heavy. He also looked at Amina differently, not like she was invisible anymore, like he saw her. It was strange being seen. Her new position was vague. Administrative assistant, officially. But really, Ji-ho had created a job that let him keep her close. Someone he could trust. Someone who had proven she would tell him the truth even when it hurt. They didn't talk about feelings. This wasn't that kind of story yet. But sometimes, late at night, when they were both still working, he would bring her coffee. And she would ask how he was feeling, really feeling. And he would answer honestly. Small things. But they mattered. Yoonji thought it was hilarious. You went from cleaning his office to working in his office. That's like a drama. My life is not a drama. Your life is absolutely a drama. When do you fall in love with him? Never. We're professional colleagues. Sure you are, Yoonji grinned. That's why he looks at you like you hung the moon. He does not. He absolutely does. Amina threw a pillow at her. But later, alone in her room, she thought about it. About the way Jiho's face had looked when she told him someone should care. About the quiet way he made sure she ate lunch. About the photograph on his desk that now sat next to a new one. A picture someone had taken of the whole office team. She was in it, standing in the back, but there. Maybe Yoonji was right. Maybe this was becoming something. Or maybe it was just two people who had survived something terrible together and were figuring out what came next. Either way, Amina thought, it was better than being invisible. 1 month after everything fell apart and came back together, Ji-ho called Amina into his office. She went, carrying a tablet and a notepad, ready to discuss whatever administrative crisis needed solving. Instead, she found him standing by the window, looking out at Seoul spread below them. "Close the door," he said. She did. "I've been thinking," he said, still not turning around. "About trust. About how I almost died, because I trusted the wrong person. About how I lived because I didn't trust the right person fast enough. You didn't know me," Amina said. "You had no reason to trust me." "Exactly," he turned to face her. "But you trusted yourself. You trusted what you saw and what you heard, even when everyone told you that you were wrong. That takes something I don't have. You have plenty. No. I have power. Money. Control. But I don't have whatever it is that made you risk everything for a stranger." He stepped closer. "Teach me." "Teach you what?" "How to see people the way you see them. How to care when it costs you. How to be brave." Amina stared at him. "I'm not brave. I was terrified the entire time. But you did it anyway. That's what brave means." They stood there, a foot apart, and something shifted in the air between them. "Okay," Amina said. "I'll teach you. But you have to teach me something too." "What?" "How to stop being invisible. How to take up space. How to believe I deserve to be here." Ji-ho smiled, really smiled, for the first time since she'd known him. "Deal." He held out his hand. She took it. The handshake lasted a second too long to be professional. Neither of them mentioned it. But they both noticed. 6 months later, Amina sat in a restaurant in Itaewon across from her mother, who had flown in from Tanzania to see what her daughter had been doing in Seoul all this time. "So," her mother said, looking around at the nice restaurant, at Amina's new clothes, at the confidence in her daughter's posture. "You're doing well." "I am." "The job is good." "Very good." "And this boss of yours, the one who calls you at all hours, the one who bought you that new phone when yours broke, the one who is definitely not interested in you." Amina laughed. "I never said he wasn't interested. So he is." "Maybe. We're taking it slow." "Slow is good." Her mother reached across the table, took Amina's hand. "I'm proud of you. You know that." Even though I didn't finish the program? Especially because you didn't finish the program. You could have given up, come home, hidden from failure. Instead, you built something new, something better. Amina's eyes stung. Thanks, Mama. So when do I meet this man who is definitely not your boyfriend? He's working late tonight, but tomorrow, I'll bring him by. Good. I want to see if he's worthy of my daughter. Nobody's worthy of me, Amina said with a grin. But he comes close. Her mother laughed, and they ordered dessert, and Amina thought about how far she had come from the woman scrubbing floors on the night shift. Still the same person, but seen now, valued, safe. It was a good feeling. That night, Ji-ho picked her up from the restaurant. He had insisted, even though she said she could take the bus. How was dinner with your mother? He asked as they drove through the city. Good. She wants to meet you tomorrow. Should I be nervous? Terrified. She's very protective. I can handle protective. He glanced at her. I'm more worried about whether she'll approve. Of what? Of me. For you. Amina's heart did something complicated. They still hadn't defined what they were to each other. Colleagues, friends, something more that neither of them had named yet. She'll approve, Amina said quietly, because you make me happy. Ji-ho pulled the car over. They were on a quiet street, trees overhead, the city lights making everything glow. I make you happy? He asked. Yeah. Good. He reached over, took her hand. You make me want to be better. Want to deserve the second chance you gave me. You already deserve it. I'm going to spend a very long time trying to prove that to you. Is that a promise? It's a guarantee. They sat there in the quiet car, hands linked, and Amina thought about how stories were supposed to end, with grand gestures and dramatic confessions, and everything tied up neatly. But this story didn't end. It just kept going. One day at a time. One choice at a time. Two people who had saved each other, learning how to build something together. Can I kiss you? Ji-ho asked. You can try. He did. It was soft, careful, sweet, the kind of kiss that promised more without demanding anything. When they pulled apart, Amina was smiling. What? He asked. I was just thinking. A year ago I was scrubbing floors and trying to be invisible. Now I'm here. With you. Living a life I didn't know I was allowed to want. You're allowed to want everything, Ji-ho said seriously, and I'm going to make sure you get it. That's a big promise. I keep my promises. I know you do. They drove home through the Seoul night, and Amina looked out at the city that had broken her and rebuilt her and given her everything she didn't know she needed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Yoonji. Did he kiss you yet? Amina typed back. Maybe. I knew it. I want details. She laughed, put the phone away, and let herself be happy. Because after everything, after the fear and the risk and the impossible choices, she had earned this. The quiet moment, the hand holding hers. The man beside her, who looked at her like she had hung the moon. She had been invisible for so long, it was nice to finally be seen. And that's the end of Amina's story. Well, the end of this chapter anyway, because the best stories don't really end, they just pause. They keep going in the hearts of people who heard them and thought, maybe I can be brave too. Maybe I can care when it costs me. Maybe I can trust myself even when the world says I'm wrong. If this story meant something to you, if it made you feel something, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to hear that courage looks different for everyone. And remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is see someone who thinks they're invisible. Because we all deserve to be seen. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.